Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you've never been here before, my name is Kendall and today I'm going to be going over 12 books that I plan to read in the year 2024 that have been recommended to me by 12 different friends. I just want to start off by saying I'm sorry if the lighting is weird. It's very dark and dreary outside, so I'm having to get a little bit of extra lighting help, but it's a little bit yellow bright, so hopefully it's not too distracting. But let's go ahead and get into these books. Like I said, these are all books from friends and from patrons that have recommended that I read these books and get to them. Some of them are highly anticipated reads for me. Some of them are books that I have and just have never read before and need to get to. Some of them are newer ones that I have not read. A few are some that I've never heard of until my friends recommended them and they piqued my interest when I looked into them. So I do have some of these books physically, but some of them I do not, so I just decided to go ahead and put pictures of them all up for this video. But I will have all of their titles and stuff in the description below. So the first book that was recommended to me was The House Witch by Delemhach, I think is how you say the name. I'm not 100% sure, but this was recommended to me by one of my friends, Rachel, over at a library fairy on Instagram. And I am so excited to finally get to this one. I feel like I've been waiting. I recently discovered that it is on Kindle. That's how I found it. And then I had someone send it to me for my birthday and I was just super excited because I think it's a beautiful cover and I also just think the story sounds really cute and cozy. And you guys already know that this year I have found out that cozy fantasy is one of my favorite genres now, so I'm super excited to get into another one. We're following Finn and he is a cook for a royal family, and this goes into like more of that, what he wants out of life and what he cooks for them for dinner. It's very cute, very cozy, very homestead-ish, which is why I think Rachel liked it and recommended it to me. But Finn is a cook, obviously, and he just really enjoys that kind of domestic lifestyle that he lives, serving this family. And Finn is keeping his identity, his real identity, a secret from everybody, but his powers start to develop a little bit more and people start noticing in the court, so he gets himself in a bit of trouble and he's having to figure out how to get out of this trouble. His love life is becoming a little bit complicated. Obviously his work life is becoming complicated, so I'm very excited because this just sounds like some fantasy with romance and a little bit of a mystery involved, which I love. This next one I knew I had to add because two people recommended it to me, and that is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. The first person who recommended it to me was Peyton from Peyton's Book Place and Elle over at Natural Books. So I'm very excited to get into this. I know my friend Rachel from Happy Go Lovely Sleeves really enjoyed this one, and I think that I will too. It's been a huge hit on Book Talk and BookTube and Bookstagram, just everywhere I've seen this book. So I'm very excited to see what all the hype is about. If you guys see a tail moving in the background, Peanut Butter has decided to join us, so there's not really much I can do about that. But in this book, we're following a girl named Elspeth who is trying to save her kingdom. And she has to basically get a monster to help her. And she's trying to cast this monster and there's a lot of things happening. She meets this guy who, you know, she obviously is probably going to have a romance with at some point, I'm assuming. But he just kind of introduces her to a whole new world that she didn't even know about. And it's starting to turn dark and there's a lot of just like ups and downs. So I'm very excited to see where this book is going to lead. The next one I'm kind of ashamed that I have not already read. So I'm glad that my friend Elizabeth from Ponytails and Paperbacks recommended / told me to read this. And that is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I promise I have tried to read it before, but I just wasn't in the mood for it at the time. I was really, I think, in the mood for spooky books, so it was the wrong time to pick it up. But I'm super excited to finally get to this one. I really want to get more into his books because I think he's pretty good with the cozy fantasy genre and I really love it, and I've just heard that I'm gonna fall in love with literally every character in this book. So basically we're following this guy who is in charge of magical youth. Like, he works in the department of taking care of magical youths, and he finds out that there are a bunch of these orphans on an island in this house with this guy who's raising them, helping them, but their powers are really, really, you know, kind of out there and kind of destructive. And so his department sends him out there to investigate and, you know, get to knowing what's going on. But obviously we're going to get a more complicated story because he's going to be thrust into the lives of these children, and I have a feeling they're going to warm my heart in different ways. And I think there's also a bit of a love story going on. So yeah, it literally sounds like the perfect read. This next one is one that I literally didn't even know existed until Book Talk and Bookstagram kind of blew it up. And that is The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. And this was recommended to me by my friend Kyla from the channel Kyla Nettle. So I recommended a book to Kyla called None Shall Sleep by Elle Marney, because I know that Kyla is a fellow Criminal Minds lover, and she loves, you know, she's just a binge watcher, like rewatcher of that show, and I really enjoy it too. So I was like, you need to read this book, it's so good. And so she did, she really liked it, and she came back and she's like, well, you need to read The Naturals, because it definitely gives off those same kind of vibes, which I am so excited about. So we're following a 17-year-old girl named Cassie, and she has a gift, a really like good gift at reading people and knowing things that most people wouldn't know. And she's just living her everyday life, even though she's not like, you know, every other kid. But then the FBI comes and they want her and a bunch of other teenagers with powers or gifts like hers to help them out with cold cases that they just have not been able to solve. So Cassie is going to go live in a house with these teenagers who have gifts just like hers, and it gets serious, you know. So she is just trying to get used to all of these different people. Nobody trusts one another, and they're all having to work together as well. So it's a very like a ragtag group of people coming together who don't, like I said, trust each other or really know one another. But a new serial killer comes, and he or she is basically really hitting close to home with these teenagers, and so they're kind of on a clock to figure out what's going on, who it is. And this is the start of a new series, so I'm hoping that this gives me another series to read. The next one is one that I had not heard of until my friend Zoe from Lifestyle of a Bibliophile recommended it to me, and I read the synopsis and was instantly sold. And it is the book Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlind. From what I understand about this book, there were two people who met. They fell in love, they, you know, did everything together, and then they were separated to kind of follow in different paths of life. And that it's going through, I think, a spread of 15 or so years, and they end up like seeing each other after I don't know how long, and then they, you know, never get to connect, and a month goes by after they see each other, and I think they're both just wondering what's, you know, what the other person's life is like, what they're going through, what their love life looks like, if they think about each other and different things. So I kind of want to go into this one as blind as possible, but it just sounds like a heartbreaking but heartwarming love story at the same time. The next one was recommended to me by one of my patrons. Her name is Shanice, and she wants me to read Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher, which I am not opposed to at all. I have yet to dive into a T. Kingfisher book, but I happen to own a few, which is, I know, kind of crazy, but maybe I will finally get to read some of the books that I own this year. And this one says, after years of seeing her sister suffer at the hands of an abusive prince, Mara, the shy, convent-raised third-born daughter, has finally realized that no one is coming to their rescue. No one except for Mara herself. Seeking help from a powerful grave witch, Mara is offered the tools to kill a prince, if she can complete 3 impossible tasks. But as in the way in tales of princes, witches, and daughters, the impossible is only the beginning. On her quest, Mara is joined by the Grave Witch, a reluctant fairy godmother, a strapping former knight, and a chicken possessed by a demon. Together, the 5 of them intend to be the hand that closes around the throat of the prince and frees Mara's family and their kingdom from its tyrannous ruler at last. I love that. I didn't even know there was a chicken possessed by a demon, and that makes me want to read it even more. This next one was recommended to me by the mystery thriller queen herself, Rachel from Happy Go Lovely Sleeves, and she wants me to read None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell, which I am so excited for. This will be my first Lisa Jewell book, and I've heard this is one to definitely start off with because it's a very strong start if you're getting into her writing because of how good it is. So we're following Alex, who's turning 45, and she is a podcaster. And she's going out to celebrate her birthday, and she runs into this woman named Josie. And Josie is also celebrating her 45th birthday, and they find out they're kind of like birthday twins. And they, you know, have a good time, and then they separate, go their own ways, go back to their lives. And then they end up running into each other again outside of school. And Josie ends up telling Alex, you know, I think it would actually be a really great subject for your podcast if you would want to like explore that. And Alex just feels like there's something off about Josie, but she really just can't put a finger on it. And so I just feel like this is going to be that psychological thriller that I need and I've wanted. And you add like a podcast element to it, and I feel like that's going to make me like it even more. This next one was actually recommended to me by a girl that goes to my church, and her name is Amaya. And she wants me to read a book that has been on my shelves for quite some time. Actually embarrassed for how long it's been on my shelf. And I'm finally going to get to it. This is the year. I promise. And that is Stalking Jack the Ripper by Kerri Maniscalco. I also own 2 books that are the beginning of different series from that author, but I want to read this one because I have been told that it's really good. And I think that most people said if you like the book Anatomy by Dana Schwartz, that you can really get into this one. So that already has me pumped and ready to go. We're following a 17-year-old girl named Audrey, and she was born into a wealthy family, but she just has a curious and brilliant mind, and she likes to sneak away to her uncle's forensic business where she can look into different cases, different murder files, and you know, stuff like that, which who can blame her. But then she ends up getting into this serial killer's files and really trying to dive down and discover who this person is. And this is supposed to be like a historical, creepy fantasy that gets turned around into something like that, following Jack the Ripper. And I think there is some romance mixed in as well. And I think the books are really gorgeous because they do have some illustrations on the inside. But like I said, I'm just finally excited to get to this one after sitting on it for so long. I feel like this recommendation is going to be no surprise to anybody, but Olivia from Liv's Library wants me to read A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid, which I tried to get to so many times this year, and it was just felt like things were catching up to me. I had like book discussions or readathons and stuff that got in the way of me actually picking up this book, so I'm not going to let that happen next year. I'm just going to read it because I want to read it. But Effie is a girl who is going to this school for architecture, and she does have an obsession with a fairy king, which is kind of thrown in there randomly, but I'm here for it. And she first fell in love with the fairy king when she read a book by one of her favorite authors, but then she gets a chance to redecorate, redesign, rebuild this famous author who she loves house, manor, and she immediately decides she's going to enter that competition. But she finds out that the competition is fierce quickly, and there's also some deeper and darker things that are at play. I've heard that this story is just so beautifully written with the setting. I've heard so many great things about Ava Reid, and I want to finally get to one of her books and see if I fall in love with her writing as quickly as everybody else seems to. I want to say thank you to Lindsay who recommended this book to me because I think she knew how much I love The Bone Houses by Emily Lloyd-Jones, and so she wants me to read The Hearts We Sold by the same author. So thank you, Lindsay, because I'm super excited about it. So we're following Dee, who has a terrible home life, and she makes a deal basically with the devil. Is a demon, I think, something. She makes a deal with the devil is what I'm going to say. And decides to give up her heart in exchange for living this terrible life. And so this deal ends up being more than she bargained for. And the only people that she can kind of rely on is this other group of teens who has had to make similar deals to hers. And there she meets this guy named James, and she is just kind of, you know, oh, he's cute, kind of heartstruck. And But the question is, can she give her heart to somebody when she doesn't even have one? So I really love the way that Emily Lloyd-Jones writes her setting, her characters. It's so atmospheric and so beautiful, and I cannot wait to get to this one. This next book was recommended to me by another patron of mine named Nick, and they want me to read Ordinary Monsters by J.M. Miro, which I have had on my shelves, I feel like ever since it came out, and I have yet to get to it. It's such a big book. I've heard nothing but good things about it, and I'm very excited to finally get my hands on it. It says, England 1882. In Victorian London, 2 children with mysterious powers are hunted by a figure of darkness, a man made of smoke. 16-year-old Charlie Obed, despite a lifetime of brutality, doesn't have a scar on him. His body heals itself whether he wants it to or not. Marlowe, a foundling from a railway freight car, shines within a strange bluish light. He can melt or mend flesh. When 2 grizzled detectives are recruited to escort them north to safety, they are forced to confront the nature of difference and belonging and the shadowy edges of the monstrous. What follows is a journey from the gaslit streets of London to an eerie estate outside Edinburgh, where other children with gifts, the Talents, have been gathered. Here the world of the dead and the world of the living threaten to collide, and as secrets within the Institute unfurl, Marlowe, Charlie, and the rest of the Talents will discover the truth about their abilities and the nature of the force that is stalking them, that the worst monsters sometimes come bearing the sweetest gifts. It says, with lush prose, mesmerizing world building, and a gripping plot, Ordinary Monsters presents a catastrophic vision of the Victorian world and of the gifted broken children who must save it. And the last book was recommended to me by my friend Heather over at Heather Hondana, and she wants me to read Juniper Bean Resorts to Murder. And this one is by Gracie Ruth Mitchell. Juniper is a struggling writer. She really just wants to write all these love stories. She loves the swooniness, the kissing, the banter, you know, all of that comes with love. And she has one problem, and that is that she can't stop killing off her main characters. And so she's like, you know what, maybe this is because I need a change in genre. Maybe I'm supposed to be killing off characters in my books. So she sets out to try and find out how she can kind of get more into that genre of the mystery thriller instead of just romance. So then Juniper meets this guy who is also her roommate named Aiden, and they are instantly thrown into this murder mystery because Juniper stumbles upon a dead body of a person she actually knows. And so things start going awry, things are like going crazy. Juniper is going to have to really dive into this murder mystery part of herself and figure out what happened. But I'm so excited to get to these books. You'll have to let me know if there are any of these books that you have read, if you think that I'll like them, what your thoughts were on them, or let me know down below if there are any of these that you are also planning to read next year. Anything like that. But thank you guys so much for stopping by and watching, and I will see you all in the next one.